material in which I will revolve. After months of doubt, I closed my eyes, I threw a coin, and the head came out. The heads were Rotterdam, and I smiled. What Oracle will do in this debate is the same thing. It will just resolve doubts and gives you a hint of what you actually desired for your life. So as first speaker of proposition, what can you expect from this speech? First, I'll give you the qualification and characterization of this debate, then I will give you the metrics and the teamline of our team, and later I'll bring the first argument of our teamline. So let's start with pieces of characterization. First, the main stakeholder is a person between the 20s and the 25 years old, and they're about to enter a relationship. The relationship is a big step, and therefore, the Oracle becomes an instrument to better understand what can you expect from the relationship. So being so young and not being already in a relationship means that you have generally three characteristics that I will highlight that I will highlight. First, you still have a lot of possibilities in front of you. It's imaginable that you will meet a lot of other people, and therefore losing one possible relationship isn't generally the end of the world. Second, you also have a lot of desires comparatively to when you'll be older, because you have experienced significantly less life than a 50 years old. So, from a person, you might just want to, hang out and have fun and just enjoy them in the meantime, and then later see if that's actually what you want to have and make it a deeper relationship. Furthermore, fewer years means that you still have a lot to understand what you actually want from your life. For example, let's take an example of marriage. Does like a person of 25 years old actually already know whether or not they want to actually end up, married with somebody? Do they want marriage itself? Do they want marriage with the person that they are about to enter a relationship? These are all questions you generally don't have an answer because you're fairly young. Second, Love Oracle will show you, Love Oracle will show you a text on how the relationship ends, but not the path that leads to it. Love Oracle is idealistically infallible. This means that no matter what, the relationship will end exactly how Love Oracle told you. So it will tell you when the relationship will end, and also the stages in which the relationship will end. So there are three possible cases. First, Love Oracle tells you that you will die still together married, which I will analyze in the first layer of my first argument. Second, you will break up peacefully, which I will analyze in my second layer of my first argument. And third, you will go through a messy breakup, which my second speaker will later analyze. So the third point of characterization is that the main stakeholder isn't forced to go through the relationship. The person in their early 20s is about to enter the relationship. Therefore, not being in it yet, they can still choose their future, because the Love Oracle prediction starts only when the relationship has effectively started. So this person still has the freedom of choosing whether or not they want to make the prediction actually real. So the metric in this debate is, as a person in their early 20s, are there more incentives to use Love Oracle? Are there more incentives not to use it? It is demonstrating whether or not a person in their early 20s should desire to use Love Oracle. So our burden will be that in all scenarios, it is absolutely necessary to use Love Oracle to understand what you actually want. So what is our teamline? Our teamline will be divided into two arguments. First, it helps you gaining awareness on what you desire. Second, it helps you avoid people that will give you a traumatizing experience that my second speaker will later analyze. So at this point, let's start with the first argument. Okay, our first argument will be divided into two scenarios. First, the scenario in which you will end up happily ever after married, and you will die together married. And the second scenario is about when you will go through a breakup, it's not going to be traumatic, a fine breakup, a normal breakup. So let's start with the first situation. Well, let's imagine being in your early 20s and meeting a person that you really like. Wouldn't you want to know if that's the person you are going to end up marrying? Let's start with first. Let's consider that is a part of human nature. Being curious to understand what your future will be is naturally what every people wants, because it gives you a sense of safety and relaxes you because it removes the stress of not knowing about the future. Second, a loving person does not mean that they are the right person for you, and the Love Oracle is just an instrument that gives you the information to make a choice. By this we mean to say that even if you get the information by still married, it doesn't mean that you are obliged to follow and actually get married then. So let's take again the coin example. I have to throw the coin. I will throw the coin and understand if a marriage is actually what I wanted in my life. So what happens is that therefore it helps you making generally three possible choices. Three possible cases can arise from the situation. So first, you understand that that's the right person, and you get in a full commitment. So you choose that's the future you want. That's the person you want. So you go through it. You Second, you understand that you want marriage. But you want marriage with the right person. You understand that that person is not the actual one you want to end up being married with. And third, you understand that maybe you actually don't want marriage at all. Like, not everybody wants marriage because not everybody wants to have such full commitment throughout their whole life. This love oracle will have to understand through this kind of like choice whether or not marriage is the thing that makes it for you. Then let's move to the second scenario, the good breakup, let's call it this. So panel, let's now take into account that like love oracle tells you like you're going to break up in a peaceful way. Now you are going to face a different choice. You could either decide to go through it like, just for the experience, just for the sake of it. You might just want to have fun, hang out with somebody for some time, enjoy yourself and spend some time with them, but you don't actually want to take full commitment and become married. And that's what you desire, so it's fine for you. Otherwise, you actually understand that you want something serious, like the breakup and like not ending up together and ending up married.
Can you explain it to me why do you believe the love oracle is the only way that you can understand our relationship is going to end? Why can't you just figure it out yourself, living it?
Okay, the point is that love oracle gives you certainty. As we said, love oracle is an idealistic system. But giving you certainty gives you like kind of like an objective thing to make your consideration on. What opposition is pushing instead is like trying to understand if maybe something will happen. You don't have real data to understand whether or not the relationship will end. Therefore, you don't have the data to make an actual consideration that it's carefully reasoned. Therefore, on love oracle, you just have the precise information to actually people. So let's move on to with our argument. Otherwise, like you just don't want a relationship, you step out of it. So let's face it, panel. In your 20s, you either want to gain this experience or you just don't want to go into a relationship. But either way, what you want is to have a clearer mind on what your future will be. So what Love Oracle does, it helps you understand. For example, if you just want to have fun and enjoy, so you go through the relationship knowing that at some point you will just break up, and that's fine. Otherwise, you just understand it that that's not meant to be what you want. You just want a relationship, so you just close it beforehand. And that helps you finding the right person faster because you can just scan through the people that you're engaging with, avoiding to lose time with somebody that in the end will not give you what you're actually looking for. So you should send this high proposition because we are deciding to use Love Oracle to help people understand what they actually want. People in the 20s are people generally still have to figure out what they desire, and therefore Love Oracle is extremely necessary because it incentivizes you to understand actually what you want to do in your life, actually what you desire in your life, and later make considerate choice. What opposition is taking with VOI is that they won't actually get a considerate choice because they won't have the data to actually make it. And therefore, for all these reasons, you should stand with side proposition. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Federico. The speech was 16 minutes and 5 seconds. We will give the floor to the first speaker of the opposition team, Francesco.
So I will start in 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Montagna Francesco, and I'm the first speaker of the opposition team. First of all, I would like to start by saying that for me it's a pleasure to be here to discuss the stimulating statement with all of you. We are the opposition team, and with our speech we are going to prove you that a person in their early 20s entering a new relationship can't use Love Oracle. First of all, I would like to start by rebuttal some of the things that was said by the first speaker of the opposition team. If you don't want, the key concept is this, if you don't want to continue a relationship, you can step out of it at any time. There is no need for a Love Oracle. It's important to understand the key concept is that we learn also thanks to the experience. We can't live in a world where we know the mistakes, where we know the future. We have to experience. The experience is a learning tool. Now I'd like to define in a better way what is early 20s. It's not just an age, it's a period of life, a period of growth when you have the possibility to discover yourself, to discover your feelings, and how to behave with other people, and how to deal with also difficulties. This is important. It's a period characterized by a mix of emotions when you start to relate to each other. The relationship, in particular love relationship in this period of life, give you the possibility to discover your personality independently by the way the relationship is going to end. This is very important for our team. Now I'd like to make my team line clear. I am the first speaker. I will deal with the first point, love as a learning tool. So as I said before, the love as all the experience of our life is a way to improve your knowledge about yourself, about your feelings, about your personality, and you can understand also how to deal with the difficulties and the problems of life. You can deal how to recognize the dangerous situation, how to recognize the true people, and how to recognize also in this situation true love. This is very important. The second speaker of my team, Maria, will deal with the second point. She will explain you why we strongly oppose to a utilitaristic vision of love that is supported on the other hand by this statement. And she will also explain you that knowing the end of a relationship risks ruining the relationship all. So because of any paranoia that, or we can say strange vision of the future that you could have due to the love oracle. Now I'd like to focus on my first point. Love is a learning tool. It's important to understand this key concept. Love is an experience that characterizes everyone's life. Love is an experience that makes you alive, that gives you all type of emotion. You can't skip all of these only basing on the hand. The hand is not the process. So what are we talking about? We can't avoid love experiences so as to eliminate love disappointment. It's ridiculous, and we can't accept this also from a moral point of view. Why? Simply because love is a learning tool, and even if it's a suffering experience. Yes, of course.
If somebody in proposition wants to learn, can we just use love oracle, understand that we will break up, go through the relationship, learn, and then just break up? Like, what is the difference in your case and in our case? Please engage with it.
Yes, that we can't accept that a person in this period of life deal with this problem and this paranoia of deal with an algorithm or an idealistic tool so as to know the end of something. It's something that we can't accept. We can't accept. We have to live. We have to live. We have to experience all the aspects of our life, even if they are something we can say that are suffering aspects for us. So now I'd like to continue that the idea that a person early 20s entering a new relationship should use love oracle is unacceptable. How you can support the solution of seeing the end of something without experiencing it? We will live in a world based only on reason, rationality, and choices characterized by the purpose of reaching something. So we will live in a world completely deprived of life himself. You can't live always with the knowledge of the future. The key concept is that love is a learning tool. But why? I'd like to give you some examples, some practical examples. We know that love can be beautiful and destructive too. We acknowledge that, of course, it's clear. But it's important to understand that also love disappointments are a way to discover new things, to discover yourself. You achieve a great knowledge of your inner self by living fully a relationship. You learn, for example, respecting yourself when you have love disappointments, and this is crucial. This is something, sorry, I'd like to continue. This is something that we have to experience. This is something that is important in all the period of our life, in all the aspects and sectors of our life. Thanks to love disappointments and thanks to also love experience that end in a way that, of course, we don't like, we don't share, of course. We learn something like respecting ourselves, and thanks to difficulties and love suffering, for example, we can understand how to recognize the truth in people, and this is something very important. We recognize people who are authentic with us. You understand to recognize dangerous situations and people who, for example, want to take advantage from you. So the experience of love, even if it has a terrible end, is something that we can't skip. We can't just consider only the end. We have to base our life on the process, on the experience. We can understand how to recognize the beauty of life, how to recognize the dangerous situation, and also we can say discover our real love. So we can understand the type of person that, according to our opinion, deserves our love. And this is something that, basing on love oracle, we can't learn, we can identify. So the knowledge that you take in a love relationship are useful in all situations. This is the key concept. Knowing what's happening, knowing, for example, what having a heart broken means, give you the opportunity to experience pain, suffering, and the skill of learning how to deal with pain. Sorry, I would like to continue to end my speech. The skill of learning how to deal with these feelings is fundamental for your entire life. In a world where young people doesn't experience suffer, there is the big risk of having generations without the ability of dealing with problems. We are not talking about utopistic world. We are talking about reality. Also, the experience, we can say, the bad experience are part of our life and are a resource for us to improve our personality. So, unfortunately, we know that in some cases our life is characterized by difficulties, but we can't avoid it. We can't depriving our life from experience just basing on future, just basing on the knowledge of what is going to happen. It's something that we can't accept. And I would like to conclude by saying that the key point is, by experience love through all its phases, not just skipping to the end, you learn how to deal with your entire life. It's an opportunity that we can't avoid. We can't just base on this love or oracle. Let's think about a person that is in love with the other, but he made a mistake, and due to this mistake, he lose his person. He will suffer, of course, but he will learn how not to make again his mistakes. So we can't avoid the process, this opportunity, just basing on the knowledge of what is going to happen. This wouldn't be life. This is the end of my speech. Thanks for your attention.
Just a moment and I will be ready. Thank you. Okay, now the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so at first I would like to start by rebutting what the opposition house stated. So far they talk about the fact that experience is needed and the fact that young people need to suffer from a part to learn, like to gain your personality and everything. But as my first speaker stated in a POI, and I will later continue to explain it better, they didn't quite explain how that is exclusive. As my first speaker took a really long time to explain how it develops your critical thinking, and the fact that after you discover that maybe a relationship will end peacefully or in a happily ever after or in a messy breakup that I will later explain in a speech, that will, like, you won't be pushed to not go through the relationship. Maybe, as he said, you just want a peaceful relationship that ends in a peaceful breakup. You just want experience. Because in our case, we never stated that you can't have experience, that binds you to not have any experience, to be limited, because my first speaker explained that in a really long time and really well. And then they failed to prove how you learn just through love, and why can someone experience, for example, suffer outside love relationship. You can learn, you can go through stressful things in your life, and you don't need to go through a toxic relationship just to learn that. You can learn yourself through many different situations. You don't just need to suffer through love. You can learn that in other ways. And we think that with since this is an actor motion, we as an actor, we would use the article because, as my first speaker said, it develops your critical thinking, and as I will explain later in my speech, it also it will also kind of be like a safety tool. They also talked about that the fact that young people kind of need to suffer, but the motion states that it's the early 20s. Like, we're considering that in the teenage years, because like we are in our teenage years, we don't just never experience love, we can experience love in our teenage years. We can have this experience without using the alcohol, because these are one of the most important years of our life. And we can suffer, we can go through breakups, but maybe when you're 20s, as my first speaker stated, maybe you want to like start to search for your person, start to search for a person to live for your whole life, to live with, to marry. So we think that, of course, in your teenage years, you need to do everything that the proposition house stated, like go through love, through experience, to build your personality. But afterwards, when you're in your early 20s, you can, thanks to the article, understand what you prefer, if you prefer to have a long-lasting relationship, or if you just want to continue to have fun. And that is why we, because this is an actor motion, we prefer to use the article. And I would like to just highlight how the opposition house they kind of failed to prove exclusivity, because as my first speaker also did the POI, they never quite explained how that is exclusive to them. So now I would like to start to talk about my point, and then I will end my speech with a comparative. So at first, we state that using a love article can avoid being in an abusive relationship. What happens when the love article shows you break up badly? So I would like to analyze each individual layer from best case scenario to worst case scenario, and prove how you should use the article in each case, why we would use the article in each case. So the first is a messy breakup, but a peaceful relationship. So let's think about it. If you had a perfect relationship where you felt happy and in love and peaceful and protected, what would be the cause of a messy breakup? The messy breakup would be because of the wrongdoing of a person. As a wrongdoing, we mean cheating, doing something against the other person's values, or discovering something unforgivable. So the wrongdoing that would lead to a messy breakup are things that the other partner did that is unforgivable. A person in the early 20s. Yes.
Why are you just assuming that it's the other partner that did something bad to you? Why can't you have done the same?
Oh, of course, you would have done the same. But you know, why would you cheat on a person? You would probably cheat on a person because you are in a mental unstable situation. Like, I'm not saying that cheating is right, but if you end up cheating a person, doing something wrong to them, like, it's not something that you want to do. You don't want to be the villain of the story, let's say. So that's another reason why you should avoid doing, you would use the article to avoid that situation. So as I was saying, a person in their early 20s will use the article if they break up badly, because it will avoid to get heartbroken after a perfect relationship. Like, panel, imagine thinking that you're with the love of your life, and then discovering that they cheated on you. Like, that is a kind of heartbroken that you can't really go through, and if you can avoid that, you would. So then there is the second case, so the fact that you are in a messy relationship, but in a messy breakup because you are in a messy relationship. So if you had a messy breakup, but you didn't have a peaceful relationship, that means that you had a messy relationship. So in the messy relationship, we mean like often arguing, manipulation, physical abuse. So basically, toxic relationship. And like a sane person wouldn't want to go through a toxic relationship. So you would use the article to avoid getting in a toxic relationship. So, and the third point, that is the worst case scenario, is messy breakup and death, because that is still a case. Analyzing the worst case scenario, we can understand why a person in their early 20s would use the article. If you are in a new relationship, there is always the risk that the relationship can be physically abusive. And that can not just end like the second case in a messy breakup, but the messy breakup can also mean that you die, because let's face it, the case of a partner killing another one may seem like a distant reality, but it's a really sad reality that we live in. So thanks to the oracle, we cannot just guarantee that you won't go through a heartbreak or the abusive relationship, but we can guarantee safety. So that's why we care about using it. So now I would like to take a few seconds to do a little comparative. So in the Pro House pushes on the fact that the love oracle helps people get aware about what they desire, and it helps people avoid traumatizing experiences, guaranteeing mainly safety and the possibility of not losing time. Because let's face it, if you discover that someone isn't the love of your life and you don't want to waste time, you won't waste like 20 years on that person and discovering that they don't want to get married. And in the opposition house, on the other hand, is sustaining the status quo, in where getting into a relationship is often dangerous, or at least is kind of like gambling, because you can choose to gamble, but you can't be sure of what you get. So as the proposition house, we stated that you should use the oracle to avoid messy situationship and realize what you truly want. That's the end of my speech. Thank you so much.
Speech lasted 8 minutes and 7 seconds. So I give the floor to the second speaker of the opposition team. Maria, please.
I will start in 3, 2, 1. Good morning everyone, I'm Ulrike and I'm the second speaker of my team, and before starting with the second part of my speech, I'm going to rebut some of the things said and confuse some of the things said by the preposition team. First of all, the first speaker, but also the second member, talk about how to understand what you want from a relationship thanks to the love oracle, but it's actually not true, because the love oracle tells you, okay, this relationship will end like this, but you don't actually understand if you want a marriage or not, or if you want a serious relationship or not, thanks to the love oracle. So actually, the love oracle doesn't help you to understand what you want or not from a relationship or a boyfriend or girlfriend in general. And also, you said that our love oracle helps you to understand. Let's say avoids you from having, I don't know, bad relationship or not understanding the other people, but we think that experience is the best option in order to understand people and the skill that you need for life. So we think even if you meet a boyfriend or a girlfriend that isn't perfect and maybe will treat you bad, then it's up to you that you have to understand that the other is being disrespectful, so then therefore you improve a skill. So the skill to understand, to respect yourself, to let the others respect yourself. And it's something that comes especially from and only from experience, not just from love oracle. So we think that critical thinking that you talk about doesn't come from love oracle, like you said, but comes from experience. Critical thinking only comes from experience. Also, at the end of your speech, you talk about a drastic situation when one of the lovers actually dies. But we have to remember that how this love oracle works. The love oracle tells you, okay, this relationship ends with the death of one of the two lovers, but doesn't actually say how the two lovers, how the emotion said that actually won't explain you how you arrive to this end. So you don't actually know if the person will die for weaknesses. Yes?
We stated that the oracle shows you massive breakup. I explained that I was analyzing the cases. I'm not saying that the oracle shows you that they died. Please engage with that.
Yeah, I contradicting what you said, but I'm saying in the case if you said one person dies, so you actually preventing, for example, feminicide, and you're saying the situation that is really important nowadays, we're telling you that you actually can't prevent that, because the oracle doesn't tell you, okay, this boyfriend is going to kill you, so be careful. It's just telling you one of you is going to die with the relationship. So you don't actually know if you're dying for what, for weaknesses, for a car accident, or etc. So about that, after saying that, I'm going to start with our second and third argumentation. Our second argumentation is basing on the contrast, the utilitaristic vision of love that we think the pro team has. Because we think that love, the most important part of love is actually the end of a relationship as rather than the path that you do during a relationship. We understood and we clarified it during the second argumentation what are the main things, the important things of the relationship does, and we think that love doesn't care about, it's not, that doesn't have to be meant as a purpose, but as a mean. So your mean has to be love, not just have a great breakup or not. So I'm now going to explain you furthermore this argumentation. Would you rather discover the end of a movie by watching the scenes that led to that specific family, or would you prefer having your friend come spoiling to you that the main character is going to die in the last scene when you haven't even started watching the first few seconds of the movie? We think that this relationship, or in general love, works as this example I've just made. When you watch a movie, you just don't want to know, okay, this is how it ends, or the main character is going to die, amen. You just want to know the process that this main character will do. So what problems does it face? How does it solve this problem? Does it actually knows how to solve this problem, or it will die because it just can't accept them or find a situation for them? Because in the same way as when the movie, it's not important the end of the movie, but the path the main characters or the characters in general does. Love works at the same way. So when you are in a relationship, it doesn't actually is not interesting, it's not careful, you don't have to be careful in how this relationship actually ends, but how this relationship has been, so the path you've done. During a relationship, thanks to love, you learn, you first of all enjoy yourself, enjoy life, have a great time with the other partner, but moreover, you have, for example, how to share your weaknesses, how to deal with them. Where you face love, when you face love, you just learn a lot of things. We think love is a kind of learning tool, and so you can just not concentrate on the end, but on the path. So what does love gives to you? It naturally doesn't care if that person will be the love of your life or not, and we underline that this love oracle doesn't actually help you to understand if you want to marriage or not. But anyway, love isn't a purpose, but it has to be considered as a aim, as a mean. So love as a way to improve yourself, improve your human skills also, improve your relationship skills, and therefore love as a path and not as a handy. Yes?
How, again, is this exclusive? In the meaning that love oracle doesn't stop you from going to a
It's
relationship?
exactly what I'm going to explain in our third recommendation. I will pass to that later. Before you said that this is not exclusive, so you actually can have what we're talking about even if you're using love oracle. But our third recommendation will widely explain you that this isn't possible. Because when you use love oracle, you some way affect the way you're going to deal and the way you're going to deal with your relationship. Because I'll explain you. So if you see you use the love oracle and you know how the relationship is going to end, when you're doing, if you decide anyway to enter in this relationship, when you're doing this relationship, you obviously kind of change your behavior because you already seen the love oracle. Let's do a simple example, but that actually help you to understand our logic. So if you know that, I don't know, you're going to break up, I don't know, in a restaurant or in a pizza restaurant, you will never go in a restaurant in general because you want to avoid, to prevent anything that is connected to the hand that is predicted by the love oracle. So what you said, what you're talking about, exclusivity, is not something that is real possible because you're obviously being affected by what the love oracle said, and this is actually a psychological effect that you cannot just avoid. If you know something by the love oracle, you won't just act in the future as you never have listened something, as you never have known how the relation is going to end, because it's like impossible in a psychologist's point of view. So for all this reason, we think that we have a more practical and reliable vision of the world than yours, because we proved you that first of all, love oracle isn't actually helpful, because experience is more important, and love as a mean is more important than actually understand how the relationship is going to end. And furthermore, we explained you the exclusivity of the two aspects we explained. That's the end of my speech.
So now the floor to the third speaker of the proposition team. Just one moment, please.
Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. We all know how important love is, and how love is a goal for, and especially important for this motion. And that's why Love Oracle is so important to help us with love and to help middle age, to help 20s, people in their 20s to find love. They explain that the goal is love, and they try to tell us that experiences are important in order to find love. But thanks to the Love Oracle, I already know if I'm gonna find someone that I'm going to marry, or if it's just gonna be a breakup. So I can already find love. It's easier. We can say that it's easier to find love thanks to the Love Oracle. If that's the main goal of this motion, if that's the main thing that this motion wants to prove, then the Love Oracle can just help you to reach that. What can you expect from this debate? I will go through the main two clashes of this debate. First one, in which word a person in the early 20s gained more experience, and second of all, is Love Oracle an instrument that allows to prevent traumatizing experience? First of all, in which words a person in the early 20s gains more experience? Opposition is trying to tell you that in our world, we wouldn't gain any experience because we wouldn't go through the breakup, we wouldn't go through the things. 2 layers on that. Okay, why is that wrong? First of all, what about before 20s? You weren't always 20s in your life. You went through teenage years, and in teenage years, you can go through experience, so maybe you already experienced those things. But even taking into account that you didn't go through any breakup or through any experience in your life, you can still choose to go through experience if that's what you want to do. You can still choose to go through the experience just to have fun, just to learn, because you're curious to know how that feels, and there is nothing wrong with that, and it's completely normal to go through that. Yeah.
Do you think that using a love oracle would be just like the easy way out?
No, it would not be the easier way out, but it would help you understand what you really want. Because let's face it, you wouldn't know exactly what will happen. You would just know that it will happen. So how is that an easy way out? It still portrays the critical thinking. You will still think, and you will still try to understand everything that will happen. You're still going to gain experience, but you're still going to gain critical thinking, because you're not going to know how specifically it ends the relationship. You're going to know that it ends. You're going to know that it ends badly. You're going to know that it ends good. You're not going to know that you're going to die or not, because that's something that is really important. My second speaker told you some possibilities, some possible scenario for what could happen with this message. She didn't tell you that this is something you know, like the Love Oracle doesn't tell you, okay, you're gonna die. It tells you that it's gonna end up. Okay, relationship. That's why it's really important. So going back to the flashes, in which word it gets more experience, as I already explained, you can get more experience, but at the same time, do you try to explain to us that love is the only way to gain experience? Panel, please, how many experiences in your life has helped you understand and become a better person? Is it just through love? What about school? What about family? What about friends? There are so many ways you can get experience. Why your position is trying to sell you that love is the only way to learn? Because, no, thank you. Love is the only way. But even if we take into account that love would be the only way to learn, our point still stands. Because if you really want to learn, you can still go through the relationship, because you do still have a choice. So if you believe that that's the only way you can learn, you can still go through the relationship, and you can still go through the breakup, or even you can still learn a healthy relationship. You can be in a healthy relationship and learn a lot of stuff. So I don't understand why this is a problem. So to go through the second clashes, in our an instrument is a love oracle, an instrument that allows to prevent traumatizing experience. Maybe in my life I already went through so many traumatizing experiences. Why would I want more? Why would I want to risk my life? Why would I want to risk my mental health to go through something without knowing what it would really lead to? Already knowing what it will hand, it can help me understand. Is it what I really want? Is it that what I need? Also, what opposition is trying to tell us is that you would change your behavior by knowing the end of it. But why? You don't know how it ends. You're still gonna act, and you're still gonna portray critical thinking. Isn't changing all that matters? They say, oh, that will lead you to act in a different way. Maybe that's all that matters. Maybe you do have to act in a different way, because you have to learn how to act. Isn't that just what the motion is about? Isn't like what literally they're trying to say is that in our world, we wouldn't change, we wouldn't have a critical thinking, but at the same time, they said that we are changing our behavior. By changing our behavior, aren't we changing ourselves? Aren't we adapting our way? Aren't we evolving? You also told us about how it is important to gain experience, okay? And how love is the only way to do it, all right? But at the same time, love many times can be dangerous. You didn't engage with what our second speaker brought, which is the safety of a relationship. Many times a relationship can end really badly, and we are not just talking about messy breakup, we're talking about death. It could lead to death. So isn't it nicer to know that this could be a possibility and to step away from it? Because what will you have learned if you die? Why would it be necessary to go through the relationship if what you end up with is dying? Is it an experience that you truly need? And I also want to remind you what are the metrics of this debate and what you should judge based on. The first one is is a person in their early 20s more incentivized to use the love oracle or not? And again, my first speaker clearly explained to us why a person in their early 20s who's really confused, who also really curious, would just learn better by having a love oracle, would just learn better by knowing what they will end up with and choosing whether or not to go with that path. They could choose if that's a way they want to learn, or if there are other possibilities that they better portray and think that they better portrays that better is a better way to experience themselves. So to sum up what my team is saying is that love oracle is a necessary and an important way to understand what you really want in life, to change for the best, to gain experience because you're also gaining experience, but at the same time to stay safe and not go through any unsafe scenarios. And that's why I'm so proud to propose.
The floor is yours.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Romeo loves Juliet. He would do anything for her. But the love oracle has told him that his relationship with Juliet is going to lead him to die. But you know what? He doesn't care, because he loves Juliet and will literally die for her, no matter what the stupid oracle said. Hi everybody, I'm Christina, the last speaker of the opposition team. My role today is clear. I'm going to analyze the point of clashes that I've seen throughout this debate, while expressing to you why I believe and we believe that we should definitely win this debate, trying to strengthen our case and rebutting to what the opposition said. First of all, I've analyzed one major point of clash throughout this whole debate, that is the concept of love itself, and how you guys see love different from what we see love, how we see love. So, in your word, love is actually useless, because you're not learning anything from it. In your word, you don't have that purpose. Love is not a purpose. Love is just useless. Because basically you're saying that if the love oracle can decide whether or not you are willing to go down that road, then you're basically deciding if you want to start a relationship just on the fact that you know that the relationship is going to end up well or bad, as you said. Us, on the contrary, believe that love itself and the pain that it causes can be a learning tool, as we've stated throughout this whole debate. Because even from an heartbreak, you can learn something new. I actually believe that throughout this debate, you have kind of contradicted yourself a bit. First, you said that the love oracle is going to tell you how the relationship will end up, but not how you will end up. That is obviously what you guys all believed. But then you said that you wouldn't go down that road, starting the relationship at all, if you knew you were going to die. And that does not make sense, because we're not talking about that. Also, you talked about the data that you would make on a relationship, just by consulting the love oracle. But we believe that those data are made by experience, because we believe that experience is far more important than love itself. And it's experience that develops critical thinking, not a love oracle. Love oracle is just a machine, it's just a tool, it's not really relevant to our case. That is why we believe that our case also has the exclusivity that you guys were talking about before. Because in our vision, the love oracle is not only not necessary, but is even worse than, its use would even worsen your actual condition. Because love is not something that can be discussed over a machine. Love is something that you have to experience yourself. And even going through a massive breakup and a major heartbreak can lead you to a learning about yourself, about how to cope with your situations. Yeah,
Please, can you explain why the actor in our case can go through a messy breakup in the proposition word we propose, and why can it go just in yours?
No, I didn't say that, actually. I believe that in your model, in your word, the one that actually sees a love oracle that is going to go under a massive breakup will decide to back out. Or we'll continue going down that road just to make the experience. But in our way, you don't need to use a love oracle in order to understand that. You have to experience that yourself, because that is what's really important. The path is more important than the destination. You want to use your love oracle to prevent you from having a heartbreak. That is because you don't understand the learning aspect of an heartbreak. And we agree with you that most of the times in your early 20s, you wouldn't want to go through a relationship, a toxic relationship that will end up having you sacrifice your mental health. And that is surely not advisable for anybody. But why would you use a tool that would say to you that you're going to end up breaking up with somebody if you don't know why? Actually, that is the main issue with the love oracle, because it tells you that the relationship is going to end, but it doesn't tell you the path that is leading up to the breakup. And that is what really matters. Because at the end of the day, if you know just the destination, but you don't know everything that adds up to it, then it wouldn't make sense. I'm sure the panel will agree with me. It's like reading a book. Like, you're not going to start reading a book just by reading the last few pages. You want to understand what happens throughout the whole story, from the beginning to the end. You're seeing a movie from the beginning to the end. You're not skipping to the last scene just because you think that it's going to better, seeing the last film is going to make you understand better the whole process. That really does not make sense. Yes.
Go through an abusive relationship just because
Can you
you
repeat
stand.
it? Sorry.
So you would go through the risk to go through an abusive relationship just because you stand that the love oracle stands between love. Sorry, please explain that better.
The problem is that you don't know that you are going through an abusive relationship because that's what the motion specifically said. The motion said that the love oracle is going to tell you that the relationship is going to end up. You don't know how it is going to end up, and you don't know the path leading up to it. You wouldn't know that you are going to go through a toxic relationship because the love oracle will always say to you you're going to break up, maybe a massive breakup. Maybe it will even tell you that you're going to be heartbroken, but you wouldn't know if that means that you have gone through a toxic relationship. And that is really important because obviously if we had like a magician who told us the future before living it, we would all fall for it. We would all believe that if I am going to experience the most terrible accident of my life, I'm not going to do it, obviously. But that's the point. You don't know. You just know the very end, the very last sentence. And that doesn't make sense. Yes?
Wouldn't that help you to gain experience? And isn't it experience what opposition pushes? So wouldn't we in both cases gain experience? Please engage with our case.
No, actually, in our cases, we're going to have experiences because we are going to decide to go down the road that makes us understand why we broke up. You are just deciding to skip to the very end and saying that we're going to break up. Okay, why? Why are we going to break up? Love Oracle doesn't tell you that. From reading massive heartbreak, massive breakup on Love Oracle, you can decide to skip, you can decide to not go down that road at all. You can decide not to start the relationship at all. But that is not useful at all, because you need to experience love in order to really understand it. And that is surely something that can be applied to anything in life. If you don't gain the experience, you will not understand anything. And we didn't say that love is the only way to learn. You said that, we said that, but that's surely not the case. So love is surely an important tool to learn in your life, but it's not the only one. School, friends, experiences are all important tools either. So we strongly believe that we need to oppose the motion because this is the only way we can get experience and not just skipping to the end through the easy way out. This is the end of my speech. Thank you.
Okay, we're now ready for the report speeches. So starting from the opposition team, Maria, the floor is yours.
I will start in 3, 2, 1. If the love oracle has succeeded in scaring Romeo off before starting his relationship with Juliet, ladies and gentlemen, we will have never had the most beautiful love story of our times. Good evening again, everyone. I'm Enrique Carello, and I will do the reply speech for our opposition team, and we will explain you why the word we propose is far better than what we proposed by the proposition team. We propose a word where basically love is a value, when love is a learning tool, where love, thanks to experience, it helps you to learn a lot of things, where love help you also to enjoy a part of your life and not always think about the future, not thinking, oh no, I want to find my love forever, but just saying, okay, I'm enjoying this relationship, even if it won't end good, even if I won't marry you with this person, but just because I will do a path, and thanks to this path, I will certainly learn something. Even if no matter if the situation, the relationships end well or not, because we explained you that in both cases you learn something. You can learn something from pain, and you can learn something for good situation. In both cases, we've won because we have brought love as a value. Instead, in the word of the proposition team, love is just has a utilitarian vision of love. They just say, okay, I use the love oracle so I can understand if I marry this person or not. Because if I marry this person, okay, let's just go through it, marry this person, and they don't actually give importance to love itself. While if they say, okay, I'm not going to marry this person, because it's not important to actually learn from it. It's not important to understand what it can actually give to me, because okay, it won't be the love forever, so I don't care of it. We think that this proposal that the proposition teams does is completely wrong, because every person can give us something that can help us improve ourselves. For example, if it's a bad person that actually doesn't treat us well, we can actually understand how to respect us, how to let others respect us. It's not something that you just can understand from school, for example, from other experiences. We think that yes, you can learn from a lot of different experiences, but we also think that from different experiences you learn different things. So you cannot just say, okay, you can learn these things by other things. Love is not important because it's just addictive. We don't think so. So obviously, in different situations, we learn different things, and love is not something that you just can put apart, because it gives you something, skills, for example, but also helps you to learn something that is fundamental for your entire life. So we propose you a world where love doesn't always win, but anyway, where love teaches you, where love is important for everyone, where love is a value, where love is the mean. And their love is something, it's a learning tool basically. It's something that teaches you how to deal with pain, but how to deal with also good situation, where the love is something that is not the purpose, it's not the end of a path, but it's a path itself. So compare this word to the word proposed by the proposition team, and you will also conclude, as we did, that our word is better than them, because love is not just a purpose, but it's me. That's the end of my speech.
Thank you. Speech lasted 3 minutes and 48 seconds. Okay.
Sorry.
Yes, take your time.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. I don't know about you, panel, but whenever I see a TV series, I always go online and spoil it because it relaxes me. Trust me, I am stressed enough. Therefore, it also helps me understand if I just, want to go through with it. Like, do I like it? Will I like it? I don't know. I will see. So if there's any software engineer in the room, please come to me because I want to know if the love of my life will actually be the love of my life. I want to develop this software. Please come with me and we will do it together. So what can you expect from this speech? From this speech, I will bring you two main clashes of this debate and the comparative analysis on why you should stand with side proposition. So let's start with the first clash, in which where the person in the early 20s gains more experience. The criteria in this case is which side lets people understand better what they desire. What you get from proposition is that law of Oracle becomes an instrument of experiences because it gives you data to make considerate choices. It tells you what will happen, and by understanding how it makes you feel, you better get what you want. Furthermore, nobody on proposition side forces you not to try and go through a relationship and a breakup. Therefore, you still learn through love as opposition pushes, because what we get from opposition is that to learn, you have to go through love. Love Oracle disincentivizes learning because people will, be scared by already knowing that the relationship will end. So let's analyze the comparison in this case. The point is, in both words, people would experience love. Whether it is because they preemptively accept that you will still want a relationship even if it will end up, or because they have experienced it in their teens. So the point is that proposition, in proposition work, the main actor, the main stakeholder, the people in the early 20s, they still get some learning. They still understand, even before starting the relationship, something about themselves. Well, the rest of the discussion that about how love makes you feel everything just becomes kind of a wash, because in both words people experience love. In both words, nothing changes. Like if you learn in opposition side something from love, you will learn it also on proposition side. That just doesn't make a difference. So because you said yourself, Romeo would have still gone through the relationship even if he had love Oracle, and he would have known that he would have died through the relationship. This class falls on us, because in our world, the actor always at least learns something from the experiences, at least learn something from love Oracle. We should win this debate. Second, the second question. Is love Oracle an instrument that allows to prevent traumatizing experiences? And what is the comparative in this case? We really didn't get much answer from opposition in this case. What just they tell us is that you don't know, you can't know how to you can't know the path that led to the fact the relationship ends up bad. But knowing that you will go through a bad breakup can be can just advise preemptively that something might go wrong, as my third speaker of proposition said. So this means that we are reducing the risk. We're not just preventing all cases of bad breakups ending up in really dangerous situation, but we're just helping people to understand the possible risks before entering the relationship. This, the point of proposition timeline is that what we just want to give to people is giving them data to make considerate choices. That's what we want to just do. Love Oracle is just an instrument to give data to make considerate choices. So, because we give the person that it's about to go into a relationship data to understand the possible risk of a relationship, because we're actually protecting the actor of the emotion by telling them that something might go wrong, and because we are just protecting the actor by giving him, some experience, some data to understand better on what they sell, or better something about themselves, you should stand beside the position. Because we are the only side that because we're the only side that gives, because we are the only side that gives the main stakeholder information about what will happen in the relationship, you should stand with side proposition. Thank you, everybody.